Once every now and then, a story comes along that redefines everything. I don't think anyone would argue with me when I say Berserk is one of those stories. In a land raged by war, a group of mercenaries ride past a tree of hanged men and women. One of the hanged women was pregnant and somehow gave birth after her death. The baby she left behind was Guts, our protagonist. Guts grew up with the mercenaries and learned to fight from them and his father figure Gambino. Unfortunately, due to various problems, Guts was forced to leave the group and strike out on his own. And various problems is, for sure, a huge understatement. Let's change it to a lot of depressing shit happened that forced him to leave the group. After traveling alone for a while, he meets up with another mercenary group called the Band of Hawks, whose leader is the great and mysterious Griffith. Guts reluctantly joins the Band of Hawk, which leads him down a path of glory, revenge, enough blood to flood a small country, and both the dark and light sides of the mystical world. Right off the bat, let's just get some obvious things out of the way. 1. This manga is one of the greatest things ever. Not just one of the greatest mangas ever, but one of the greatest stories ever written in existence. 2. Out of all the mangas I have ever reviewed that was not for children, this one takes the cake. This one is at the top of the not for kids content totem. I'm talking explicit sexual content, gore like you've never seen, and visuals that will give kids nightmares. I know that this will just make some kids want to see it even more, but you know, whatever, I'm not their parents. 3. The timeline of the arcs in this manga is not in order. But if you pay attention, it isn't really that confusing, okay? Okay, so let's start by talking about the art. Hot damn. Now let's talk about the story. Sweet Jesus. And now let's talk about the action. Great mother of pearl. That's it, that's the review. In the end, Berserk is... Okay, I'll be serious, even though I kinda was. I mean, this manga checks all the boxes for me, but I know there are people out there who aren't really into dark fantasy, or people who are into dark fantasy but think Berserk is a little bit too much. But even those people would have to agree that Berserk influenced a ton of entertainment today. Devil May Cry, Dark Souls, Attack on Titan, Avengers Infinity War, American Gods, even Final Fantasy Tactics were all inspired by or took some inspiration from Berserk in one form or another. Hell, Cloud and Zack's Buster Sword were inspired by Guts' huge chunk of metal, along with every other ridiculously huge anime sword in history. And you can't tell me that Sephiroth doesn't give off Griffith vibes. So cultural impact is just objectively huge. The story has thick lore, but is surprisingly easy to consume. This guy just knows how to tell a story. The overall point, or rather one significant lesson of the story, is when you're going through hell, don't stop moving. A never give up lesson that you've seen time and time again, but unlike other stories, this is now a lesson that is apparent in the short term. Throughout the story, several characters go through unbelievable shit and are able to come out of it, but not for like hundreds of chapters. I think in that way it really helped many of its readers. There are some cons to this manga though. For one, the explicit content can be a barrier for some. The manga is also not finished and the mangaka has unfortunately passed away, so it never will be. But we do have a new chapter coming out in September from what he was working on, but that won't end the story. The 3 most interesting characters are Casca, Griffith, and Guts. Who else? Casca is the only female member of the Band of Hawks and they let you know it a lot. Despite this, she was able to surpass most of the other members in skill and become one of Griffith's most trusted lieutenants. Griffith, at least from the start, was one of the most morally ambiguous characters I've ever seen. He is a political and tactical genius to the point that his character could easily slip into the cast of A Song of Ice and Fire. He is also somehow linked to the supernatural entities in the world. Guts is the stoic hero looking for his place in the world. He has painfully gone through some of the greatest character transformations in the story and is all the stronger for it. In the end, Berserk is manga legacy.